Behind me, I have a self-portrait that I'm going to drop in behind my song, which is called Short Fuse Burning. And I'm going to do part of this illustration in After Effects. There's some options where I can actually make my finger look like a wick, like have embers coming out of it, like it's a wick that's been lit. So the whole time that you see this, that my finger, I'm not holding up, holding up my index finger so that I can have a little sparkly wick, make it a wick. That's why the thing is called wick finger, wick finger 3. Okay, and the pieces I started with, I have some fire that I shot, some more flames and some smoke. I want to use that smoke. I have this really awful self-portrait I shot in front of the garage in like neutral light. And that's how I got this. And of course, your Photoshop stuff doesn't have to look like it's photographic. I prefer mine to be graphic because there's going to be a lot of typography happening on the screen, and you don't want that complicated, layered, photographic quality a lot of times, because it just becomes hard to work with the type. It's very challenging to have a type against a really detailed, nuanced photograph. So I'm making mine super graphic, and also the plus side is I got to make my hair black, yay, and got rid of all my wrinkles. So hooray, 2 wins today. Okay, so here's what I started with. Like I said, and I'm just going to go through some quick overview of Photoshop with this, starting with the easy things. If I use a lot of the blending modes in this. So if I look at my normal blending mode for this, you can see those are the flames, the smoke from the flames. All right, same with this one. They're both set to color burn. And I just, it was totally just me playing around. I'm like, oh, which one works best? Got to color burn. I'm like, definitely that one. There's also on this a solid color background. Remember, those are right here. On your adjustment layers, you can do solid color, and I picked out a yellow, obviously, like so. And I used it again up here. So I don't need that one, so I'm going to hit Command Z to undo it. I have another one here. Notice that one's set to color. If I didn't have that there, my face would be white, because you'll see how this has processed. Also, I've had to merge a lot of this stuff together so that I have my hand on one layer and my face on another, because the way I want to work with this in space is I'm going to have I want to be able to use scale, or even use this in 3D space where my hand's in the foreground and my face is in the background. And I'm going to do, I'll do like that old Nirvana video where Kurt Cobain blurs in and out because he comes into focus and out of focus as he's singing, and he gets closer to the lens and farther away from the lens. Also, it'll just give me a chance to blur my face out so I can use type over it easier, because it's much easier to use type over a fuzzy object than a sharp object, and make it legible. So yeah, so these are split onto separate layers. And just a quick refresher, I started with something like this. And you can see I already have the hand done. It looks like that, and it started with a whole bunch of layers. There's 2 versions of the hand. They're still called background, but they're just the hand. You can see if I turn them both off, the hand will go away. And that's because I needed one that was set to normal. There's my normal hand, but that looks gross. And then this other one, also set to normal, but it has a threshold applied to it. And I probably want to do this. I want to clip that to that layer. And then I have this guy. And then what I ultimately did is I zoomed in on this with Command plus. And I took my brush and I grabbed some of my favorite brushes. In this case, I used this classic cartoonist, and I remember you can use the brackets. This is all Photoshop refresher now, and I went over this so that I had a better outline, except I have to work on an actual layer. So this layer worked best. Oh, also, you know what I did? See how I can't go outside the lines? I want to be able to go outside the lines. Actually, I want this to look sketchy and rough. So the first thing I'm going to do is apply these layer masks. They both have a layer mask, and you'll see how those got there in just a second when I do the head. But what I'm going to want to do is take those layer masks and apply them. This will make it easier in the end because I don't want those when I go into After Effects. It's going to make everything super complicated. I'm going to turn this off for now. Okay. Oops, that's my... I did not need that one, actually. God damn it. Seriously? Is that not a hand? Hold on. I did apply layer mask, right? Okay, I just clicked the wrong one. I must pick discard by accident. Okay. Did I cuss in there? I don't think I did. Okay, and if I did, I'm sorry. All right, so let's go back to drawing. Now I can draw, and I'm going to undo that because I need a slightly smaller brush. So I've used my brackets, and then real quickly, I just drew like this. Okay, I'm not going to do a very good job now. I did my fingernails, made it look like a hand, but a graphic hand, blah, 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 and all around, blah, 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 da, 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 da. Like so. I even took my finger and I made it longer. I just grabbed some of it. I can do that actually after we compress it all together. But the important part is all my hand needed to be on the same layer. So I took everything that made up the hand and went up here and went to merge layers. All right, and then I called it my hand. Okay, and again, the way that started, go back to my background here for a minute, is a selection. So in this case, these don't have to be super, there's gonna be a lot of blurring and stuff happening in After Effects, so these are gonna be backgrounds. So I can basically just do the object selection tool. And I held down Shift, oops. Or you can jump to, that did not work. I'm gonna go to the quick select tool and just add to this. I probably won't actually even use my shirt, but just in case. So selected it like that. And by the way, I wish I would have put my hand up higher in the frame. Now I'm sort of stuck with that. I would have more flexibility if I had my whole hand in the frame, but oh well. So with this, remember, after you have your basic selection from any one of these selection tools, you can hit select and mask and blow it up, Jeff. I'm going to draw my hair in, so I don't need to worry about it being perfect, but remember, you probably want to smooth it out, feather a little bit. If you do want to change your selection or anything like that, remember that you have a brush tool up here, and then more importantly, like if I was trying to get my hair, this refine edge tool, where I could go across here and try to get my gray hair against a white background, which is going to be nearly impossible, but I got some of it, you can see. But like I said, this one's not that important. So I could go around the edge and see what else I can grab here. You see it picked up a few hairs. But I don't need to go that far. The important thing is that when I get to the bottom here and I do output 2, I just do output new layer with layer mask. That saves me some time. I could draw on my other shoulder, but you'll see when I start adding some things, it will be fine. Like I would go back and fix this little missing spot of my eyeball too before I went any further. But that's easy enough. Remember, I have a layer mask. I can zoom in, Command plus, go to my layer mask, and just paint on some white there, and all that stuff will come back. You could probably grab a better brush too. Right now I still have the comic brush. Just give me the gristly head. All right, and then again, here's where I needed to do a few things. I ended up needing 2 versions of this. I know this already, but what I did to start with is I just said, oh, you know what? Let's put a background behind this of a solid color. Make it yellow, like that. And then let's just see what happens with just the basic built-in blending modes. And none of these looked perfect. Like the screen one looked pretty good. I mean, it's super faint, obviously, but maybe if I added some, I thought, you know what, if I added some levels there? So I went over here and I went to levels to try it out, to see what it looked like, because remember that's the best way to adjust contrast. If I darken that up, it'd probably come out some more, or add some contrast. You can see I'm getting like in super white there. So that wasn't enough. So I tossed that away. I knew I was going to have to do a kind of a split thing where I have one looking one way and one looking another. So I knew I needed some normal thing and maybe some screen. So that's how I ended up getting the sort of the situation I did, using a combination of two different layers. So one, I did use this threshold thing to make a super hard black and white. And I do this. Like so. Except I had it set to normal. There we go. So this layer was normal. This was the threshold. I pulled the threshold back some. And that's what started to give me that kind of nice. And then this, of course, was set to color. So a lot of things were happening there. And then I played with and tweaked all these values till I got exactly what I wanted. This is clearly too graphic and a little too gritty. But you know, once I have the head's on its own layer, once I have the drawing part of this on here, it'll probably look really nice. But all your lines won't be perfect unless you have like super perfect lighting. And if I had black hair, life would be easier, especially when I do photographs like this with high contrast. But yeah, you know, then I can go ahead and add all my cool, oops, and I gotta apply my mask again, right? Because you can see I'm not able to go outside those lines again, so go ahead and apply the mask. So click on the mask, Jeff, do apply layer mask, apply layer mask, and then my drawing can be all funky-dory. And even though this one has a threshold above it, because I'm applying with black, the black is, you know, it's gonna show because it's the darkest color in the wheel box. All right, so that's how I got to here. Obviously, I cleaned it up a lot more. All right, so from here, again, make sure everything that you want is, I should title this one too, Flames Top. All right, they're very similar, but I thought two would make it a little more dense. I want to have them wiggle a little bit so they look like, kind of looks like, well, fire. Duh. Okay, where am I going to save this? I'm going to save this into my assets folder. So here is all my After Effects stuff from last demo. And I have a special folder in there for all my Photoshop stuff, and you can see it's saved right here as Wick Finger 2 merged, because everything's merged. Save. I'm going to replace that guy. Okay. All right, there's my layered Photoshop thing. And I'm ready to go into, I'm going to minimize this and jump into here and open my previous project, which is my kinetic start, short fuse start 2. And if you recall, we had this happening last time. I should zoom out. Okay, and somewhere around here, I probably want my probably Y. After Y, I want my head to pop in there and bump that away, and then we'll start dealing with that with part of the composition. Like, I've already done this part. I can't just shove a composition in there now because everything's already composed. I could put the flames in there, which is probably what I'll do. Actually, that's a smart move. Have the flames fade up because they're very faint. And then have my head pop up from the bottom. Okay. So import. Go to my assets folder. Wick Finger 3 merged. Open. Make sure I say editable layer style. Make sure I say composition, retain layer sizes. right? We don't want a flattened thing. We want the layers. I spent a lot of time putting the layers together, so I want to keep those. So retain layer sizes. I meant to mention this is bigger than 1920 by 1080 because I want to be able to move it around in space and scale it up and scale it down. So when I drop it on the screen, it's going to look kind of huge. All right, it's more than 2,000 pixels wide. Okay, then we'll say okay. And you can see when I double click it, so this is my 1920 by 1080 window because I'm looking at this composition, my demo composition. But if I double click on Wick Finger, it's actually a bit bigger. And you can tell it's a different aspect ratio. That's okay. Some of it's going to get cropped off. That's fine. You just have to note that. So I tend to make my Photoshop files bigger than my After Effects projects because I want to have the flexibility to scale things up and down without the quality getting really bad. If everything was 1920 by 1080 and then I scaled it up, because it's all raster based, the pixels would start to show, it would look like crap, and that would be bad. So better to have a higher resolution thing. If I need to scale it down, it's no problem, but scaling it up is a harder thing to do. Okay, I'm gonna lock everything before I mess anything up. And then we can add some things to this to animate it. Let's start with the flames. Flames bottom. We'll do flames top, but not in this demo, but just to show you. And then I tried different effects under distort to see how things might look, like this blobble eyes and some mesh warps. And you know what I ended up going with was the turbulent displace again, just because it's so easy. You know, I used this for the last thing, but it's just so simple to do. And we can see how it's going to work. If I just change the amounts, you can see it all blurring there in the background. It's kind of faint. So, and remember this, the evolution is pretty important. This evolution right here. So I'm going to click that and the amounts, set my initial keyframes, and then just go way to the back end. And by the way, this is 34 seconds, this composition. I'll check that in a second, but I know it is. We'll turn that up a hair, and then for evolution, we'll turn that up, and we'll turn this way up. And you can see how that's going to look just by me scrubbing through there. And then it looks like dancing, more like dancing flames. Actually, I should do it even faster because the more it went up. Let's jump to the end again. It's the final keyframe and turn it up to like 100. 300 and something. Maybe that's a little too high. Let's jump to the end one more time. Turn it down. Somewhere in the 200s. Okay, that's going to be good for now. I'd tweak it later on because, yeah, that's still too much. Okay. Still too much, but I'd play with it all day. You know what? Okay, I'm going to fix it one more time. There we go. And I'd also do the other layer, and it would look better. Okay, remember you have to let the green bar go through too to render it, but the green bar is staying ahead of my timeline indicator, so we're fine. Actually, we're not. You can tell it froze up there for a minute. So we should wait for it to render, and then we can get a sense of it in real time. It's pretty fast. Okay. Anyway, that's done for now. We'll go back and tweak it later. I'm going to lock these things because we're done. I would do that to the same thing. That was evolution and turbulent displace. Those were the parameters I set in the turbulent displace effect. Okay. More importantly, we have my face. Probably we want to move this. Let's do the face first. I'm going to start with the face off the screen. So I want to go to position. Set my initial keyframe down here, and then Y is up and down, so I'm going to move myself down here. Right there. And I'll do the same thing with my hand. So I'm going to unlock that. Go to my hand, and move him down too. Oops. The hand, Jeff. The hand. Hit P, Jeff. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to come up to, let's jump over here to my demo. and see where that was. Right here, Y happens at right about here at 5 seconds. That'll be good for now. 5 seconds, the word Y is done. It's gonna have to move off the screen. A good way to move it off the screen would probably punch it up with the head coming in under it, and then there's something else that has to happen, which is I'll be exploding tonight. It's a good. I should come in with I'll. Maybe I could even have the word I'll above my head or something like that. So 5 seconds, that's the important thing. We can jump back here to our wick finger composition and go to 5 period. Since I already have a keyframe, I can just go to my position keyframes and put me back in there. I'm not going to have my head go up all the way just yet. Well, maybe I will. I kind of like it when I'm sitting down here. I'm going to kind of bob up and down the whole way through, so they'll be moving. But my hand, definitely want the hand up there. I could also grab it if I wanted to. And of course, like I said, I can't do the hand too far. And you know what else I'm going to do with the hand? I'm going to scale it up. I'm not going to set a keyframe for my hand. And I'm going to scale my head down. Face, S for scale. Like so, and I am going to set a keyframe for that because at some point I think I want my head. Actually, I'm going to move my head over a little bit. Oops, that's better. So, face, position, hit P, move it to the left. There we go. Oh, I did that by accident, but you know what? I'm going to keep it. It's because I stuck an extra keyframe in here by accident, but for now we'll keep it. But remember, I can just click on it and delete it if I want, and it'll go away, and I won't have the arc, but I'm okay with that. Let's just watch it first. It's going to happen so fast. Oh, I did not put it in here yet, did I? We got to add it, Jeff, or nothing's going to happen. Okay, so we can take our composition and drop it right down here. There it is. All right, and it's a background composition. You can see I'm going to have to scale the whole thing down because you can see how large it is. I should have done that first, right? So and we can do that one here. We can take the whole composition and scale it down with just the S. So we can scale the individual layers within the composition. We can scale the whole composition down. Got to be a little careful because I only have so much room. And that happens way too slow. I need to punch that up super quick, right? So I'm going to have to change all those keyframes. That was dorky. Okay. Around 5. And that's no problem. Watch. If I need to work on it, I can just double click it. It'll open the composition again. I can, I'm going to actually just take out all these position keyframes because they sucked. Go to where I want them at 5. That looks about right at 5 seconds. I'm going to grab them both actually, hand and face, and hit P. Set my initial keyframes where I want them at 5, and then just go back a few frames and do the Y's together. All right, so that happens really quick now. Boop. I turn on my little blur switches so it looks more natural. It's right there for those two guys. We'll go through again. Now you can see it blurring as he comes up. And then, again, switch back over here. Okay, we gotta push Y off next. but we have it working. I have it coming up just where I want it. So he comes out right where I'm starting to say I'll be exploding tonight. So just have to have Y come out of there. I never took an out. I never did an out for the word Y, but that's the next step. All right. So keep in mind we can jump back and forth between the wick finger composition, and any changes I make in that will then be reflected within its parent composition. So these are basically nested compositions. I have my wick finger Photoshop composition nested inside this demo composition. Cool. And the beauty of this is that I can work with it two ways. I can go to the individual layers and set individual keyframes for them. I can also, within its parent composition, I have the whole document, the whole composition. I can still, like you saw me do, scale it up, scale it down, do those sort of things. So like here, I could scale it. Excuse me. You can see how the power of this, I could have it like oscillating to the beat like this the whole way through, just really gently. I could use opacity to fade it out. All those things. Okay, my throat is killing me. We're done.